Hello, how we doing today? This is Pastor Walter with another opportunity to go into the Word of God and just see what the Lord is telling us today. Amen. So glad that you have joined us here in this time of Sunday school. And we're going to be talking about Joshua. Joshua was the individual who replaced Moses. Now remember, Moses was the leader that took the children of Israel out of captivity under the power of God through the wilderness. They got a little cantankerous and they had to take a detour in the wilderness. They had their wilderness wanderings but right up until the time to enter the promised land that God had given them. And this is the same promise we've been studying with Moses and Abraham and Isaac and all of that family system that we've studied in our previous unit kind of comes together here with Joshua, as Joshua is the heir apparent who takes the place of leader Moses right prior to going into the promised land. Now remember, Joshua was one of the part of the team who went in to survey the land, see what was going on there. And all of the other individuals saw opportunities. They saw problems. They saw opportunities for defeat, for annihilation. This is just too hard for us. We can't do this. We look like grasshoppers. They look like giants. But I love Joshua because Joshua saw the food. And he reminds me of myself. And he saw possibilities. Those grapes clusters were just gigantic and luscious and delicious, and the land was flowing with milk and honey. That means that it had cattle and it had beautiful flowers and all the things that are necessary for bees to pollinate. Just a beautiful place that was lush and green and fruitful. He saw the possibilities. And that is one of the criteria that God uses to choose a leader. Amen. If you're aspiring to be a leader, or if you are a leader today in class, look for possibilities. It's easy. Anybody can find the negativity. Look for the positive possibilities, because with God, me and you can do anything that God would want us to do. Okay, now we get to pretty much the end of his life, and his life in chapter 24 of this book is an astounding life as a leader, as a conqueror. Remember, he marched around the walls of Jericho. The Lord was with him. Remember that, Emmanuel? The Lord was with him at Jericho. The Lord was with him when he went through the Jordan River on dry land. And each time there was something going on like that God favored him as a leader, he would build, erect, or assign someone to build a memorial or a monument, a place of remembrance. Now, we need to understand that God is telling us, parents and grandparents, aunties and uncles, pastors and teachers, to leave a legacy of faith in God. That's why I asked you at the end of the class to talk about certain things, because I want you to begin to share your spiritual heritage as a people and as an individual. Okay, he's about to go. This is not necessarily his deathbed, but he's getting down to the end of his life, and he's sharing what I would call a very intense message and challenge. He goes over the history of the people of God from Abraham to that present day. History is important. Rehearse the history of your family, your heritage as a people, your church. People in the cradle roll kindergarten, as soon as they can talk, they need to know the history of your church in that community. They need to know that. They need to know the history of God in your life. They need to be able to see that. So he tells them this history to remind them of how God has Emmanuel, tabernacle, has been with them. And as he shares this, he said, now I want you to make a choice. You ever sat in a restaurant and they have one of these 5-page menus and you say, oh, that's good, that's good. And the server's standing there, do I need to come back? You don't want to let them go because they may not come back real quick. But you got to make up your mind. And we become the same way on a more serious note with our spiritual lives. We're faced with a lot of choices. Some of them are from the pit of hell. We need to make a choice. Joshua said to the people then and to us now prophetically, choose this day. This day. Who are you going to serve? The world? Make up your mind. Or the one who brought you through all of these 500-something years of blessedness. Now, there have been some battles, there have been some loss of life, there have been some bloodshed, but you're here. Choose. And then he said something else that's very interesting. Again, I'll address spiritual leaders. Now, everybody in this class now is a potential leader. Know that. Leaders. But for me and my house, we are going to serve the Lord. Now, that was a big hoopla after, yeah, amen, we right with you. And some of them were serious, some of them were not. Some of them were well-intentioned and didn't do what they thought they were going to do. But God would have us as leaders to say two things. Will you come and follow me as I follow Christ? And then testify to your own personal intent. I am determined to follow Jesus. I have decided to make Jesus my choice. And if you live, not only talk, but live that way, you will impact this generation and the generation to come. Make a choice. Today's lesson is all about choice. It's about keeping the promise that God gave Abraham. That comes all the way down to me and you. If we would stay with Jesus, he will stay with us. Now, let me tell you a little secret. There's been some times when we didn't stay with him. He stayed with us. Emmanuel. God bless you. In your time together today, I want you to talk about your Joshua moments where you have left legacy signs in your testimony, in your home, in your house, at work. I'm not telling you to go Bible thumping at work, but you ought to live in such an exemplary way that people know something different about you, and that difference is Christ. Talk about how you have left legacy moments with your grandchildren. You bought them an iPhone. Tell them how to use that iPhone to get in touch with the Word of God. That could be a legacy moment. All right? You tell them all kinds of stories about what you've done over your life. Tell them about your encounter with Jesus. Would you do that? God bless you. Love you. Remember, during this season of holidays, let's keep Christ first. God bless you. Pastor loves you. Pastor looking for the red button there. Okay, I believe that's it.